My son-in-law hit my daughter at her wedding. He did it in front of everyone, and his mother encouraged him. That is the truth I am telling you now. Even though it took me hours to accept it when it happened. My name is Rowan Whitaker. I am 69. I have spent my life being careful. Careful with words, careful with reactions, careful not to disrupt the balance in a room. I learned early that women like me were praised for keeping things smooth, for absorbing discomfort so others could remain at ease. I carried that habit into motherhood, believing that patience was the same as protection. On the morning of my daughter's wedding in Charleston, I told myself this was the day I finally stepped back. She was grown, educated, confident. She had chosen her partner, planned her future, and built a life that no longer required my constant watchfulness. I reminded myself that trust was part of love. She moved through the preparations with practiced calm, checking details, reassuring everyone else. When I asked if she was all right, she smiled and said, "Of course. It's just nerves." I accepted that answer because it was easy to accept. Her husband arrived already tense, already focused on how things looked. "Let's keep this clean," he said, adjusting his cuff. "No surprises today." He kissed her cheek without waiting for her to turn. I noticed small things then. The way she straightened when he spoke. The way her smile appeared on command. I noticed them and told myself they were nothing. By the time the ceremony ended, I believed the hardest part was over. I believed my role was finished. I believed that letting go meant staying quiet. I did not yet understand how quickly a perfect day could turn into something unforgivable, or how silence can feel like safety right before it becomes a threat. I met my son-in-law years before the wedding, long enough to notice patterns I kept excusing. He spoke softly, but his words always landed like instructions. When my daughter laughed too loudly, he would lean in and murmur, "Easy," as if calming a child. She would smile and adjust herself, and I told myself that was partnership. "He just worries," she said once. When I mentioned it, "I worry too," I replied. "It's different with him," she said, a little too quickly. "He knows what he's doing." At dinners, he ordered for both of them without asking. "She'll have what I'm having," he said, hand already raised to the server. My daughter didn't correct him. She glanced at me instead, her eyes asking for something I pretended not to see. "Is that all right?" I asked her quietly. "It's fine, Mom," she said. "Really?" The way he watched her never softened. It assessed. It measured. When she disagreed, his smile stayed in place, but his jaw tightened. Later, he would joke about it. "She gets passionate." He'd say, "I keep her grounded." I told myself I was being old-fashioned. I told myself love looked different now. Politeness became my shelter, as long as I stayed calm. Nothing had to be named. By the time the wedding arrived, I had rehearsed every excuse so well that they sounded like truth. I understood my son-in-law better the first time I spent real time with his mother. She arrived late to a family dinner and acted as if the room had been waiting for her permission to breathe. Her jewelry was expensive without being subtle, her voice calm in a way that made people straighten their backs. She looked at my daughter and smiled. "Marriage settles a woman," she said, lifting her glass. "It gives her direction." My daughter laughed politely. I didn't. "She's always been focused," I said. Leonora turned to me, still smiling. Focus is wasted without guidance. Later that evening, my son-in-law placed a hand on my daughter's shoulder when she reached for her phone. "Not now," he said, pleasant but firm. She put it down immediately. "Good," his mother said. "You have to set habits early." I felt something tighten in my chest. "She's not a child," I said. Leonora's eyes flicked to mine. "Of course not. That's why discipline matters." They spoke the same language, mother and son, calm, certain, everything framed as care. When my daughter mentioned a project at work, Leonora waved it off. Marriage comes first. She said, ambition needs limits. My daughter nodded. I watched her nod, watched the way agreement had become reflex. On the drive home, I said, you don't have to shrink to fit anyone. She smiled at me, tired. I'm not shrinking. I'm adjusting. That word stayed with me. Adjusting sounded voluntary. It sounded reasonable. It also sounded like something you keep doing until there's nothing left to move. By the time the wedding weekend arrived, I understood this wasn't a family that believed in partnership. They believed in order. And order, to them, was enforced quietly, long before anyone noticed the cost. The reception had barely begun when I saw it. He stood close to my daughter, too close for comfort. His hand wrapped around her arm as if guiding her through the room. His fingers tightened when she slowed. Smile, he whispered. I was close enough to hear it. She did. The smile was quick and practiced. The kind meant to reassure everyone watching. When he released her, she reached up and smoothed her hair, pretending nothing had happened. I took a step forward. My sister caught my wrist. Rowan, she said quietly, don't start something now, Dee. He's hurting her. I said, he's stressed. She replied, it's his wedding, across the room. My daughter glanced at me. Her eyes flicked down to his hand, then back to my face. She shook her head slightly, a warning disguised as calm. He leaned toward her again. You're making a scene, he said, still smiling. I'm not, she whispered. Then act like it. Guests moved around them, laughing, clinking glasses, carefully not looking. I felt the weight of the room pressing in, the unspoken rule that nothing ugly was allowed to exist here. I stayed where I was. Not because I didn't see, because everyone else pretended they didn't. And in that moment, I let politeness speak louder than instinct, not knowing how quickly that silence would turn into permission. It happened so fast that my body reacted before my mind caught up. He said something to her, low and sharp, and she shook her head. Not dramatically, just once. His hand moved. He pushed her, not hard enough to send her flying, but hard enough to knock her off balance. Her heel caught on the hem of her dress. She fell backward into a chair, then slid to the floor. The room went quiet. Not a gasp, not a shout, just silence. Get up, he said, standing over her. You're embarrassing me. She tried. Her hands trembled as she pushed against the floor. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely there. That was when he slapped her. The sound was clean and loud. It cut through the silence like a crack. Her head snapped to the side. A red mark bloomed on her cheek as she crumpled back down, both hands coming up too late to protect her face. Something tore loose inside my chest. I was already moving, but I don't remember deciding to. Chairs scraped as I pushed past them. I heard someone say my name, soft and warning. But I didn't turn. She made me look stupid. He said, his voice tight with anger, not regret. I told you to behave. I dropped to my knees beside her. Look at me, I said. She was shaking, eyes wide, fixed on nothing, around us. People stared. Some looked away. Some watched with frozen expressions, as if this were something happening on a screen instead of the floor in front of them. I wrapped my arm around my daughter and felt how small she was against me. The illusion that this was a safe place, a happy day, a contained moment, shattered completely, and I understood, with terrifying clarity, that nothing would stop unless someone did. The silence cracked when his mother stood up. She didn't rush. She adjusted her chair, lifted her glass slightly, and looked at the room as if she were about to make a reasonable point. Good, she said. That's how you stop disrespect before it becomes a habit. For a moment, I honestly thought I had misunderstood her. I looked at her face, waiting for uncertainty, for shock, for something human. There was none. She met my stare calmly, approvingly. She needed correction. Leonora continued. Better to establish authority on the first day. Marriage doesn't work without structure. That was violence, I said. My voice shook. But it carried. She tilted her head. Don't exaggerate. He didn't lose control. He enforced it. My daughter whimpered beside me, a small sound she probably didn't realize she made. He still hadn't looked at her. His eyes were on his mother, waiting. You did the right thing, Leonora told him. If you let things slide now, you'll regret it later. I felt something inside me harden into clarity. This wasn't panic talking. This wasn't a bad moment. This was a belief system being spoken out loud for the first time because it thought it was safe. You hit my daughter, I said again, louder. She embarrassed him. Leonora replied without hesitation. A wife protects her husband's image. I shook my head slowly. A husband protects his wife from harm. Leonora smiled thinly. That's a romantic idea. Around us, people remained seated. No one interrupted. Her calm tone made the words sound reasonable, almost educational. That terrified me more than anger would have. He finally spoke. This is between us. No, I said. It stopped being that the moment you raised your hand. Leonora crossed her arms. You raised her, she said. Now it's his responsibility to finish the job. My hands were trembling. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I was seeing the full shape of it. This wasn't about losing his temper. This was about permission. About a family that taught obedience and called it love. Discipline and called it care. I pulled my daughter closer, placing myself fully between her and them. In that moment, I understood that nothing about this was accidental, and nothing would change unless someone refused to accept their definition of order. I looked around the room, waiting for someone else to step forward. Anyone. 200 people stood there, dressed for celebration, suddenly unsure where to put their hands or their eyes. A woman near the front whispered, "This is uncomfortable," and turned away. A man I recognized from my daughter's work stared at the floor like it had personally offended him. Someone behind me said, "Let's not make this worse." My sister leaned close. "Rowan, please," she murmured. "Think about her reputation." I tightened my arm around my daughter. Her body had gone stiff, as if she were trying to disappear inside herself. The red mark on her cheek was already darkening. But what stood out more was the way her eyes refused to lift. "Look at me," I said softly. She shook her head. "I messed up," she whispered. "I should have just listened." "That's not true," I said. "It is," she replied, tears spilling over. Everyone's watching. That was the cruelest part, not the pain, the shame. The way she believed she had failed simply by being seen. He took a step toward us. "This doesn't concern anyone else," he said loudly, as if the room belonged to him. "It's private, private." With 200 witnesses, I waited for someone to challenge him. A friend, a relative, anyone who had raised a glass an hour earlier and wished them happiness. No one spoke. Silence settled heavier than before, thick with relief that it wasn't happening to them. Leonora sat back down, satisfied. She adjusted her napkin like a woman finishing a meal. I felt the weight of the room pressing on my shoulders, urging me to lower my voice. Smooth things over. Let the moment pass. This was how it worked. This was how things stayed hidden. My daughter's fingers curled into my sleeve. "Mom," she said quietly, "please don't." She was protecting him. Or maybe she was protecting everyone else from discomfort. I realized then that if I waited for permission, nothing would change. The silence wasn't confusion, it was a choice. And it was being handed to me, heavy and deliberate, daring me to carry it too. I stood up slowly. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted every movement to be seen. The room shifted with me. Conversations stopped that hadn't even started again. "Step away from her," I said. He laughed once. Sharp and dismissive. "This doesn't involve you." "She's my daughter," I said. "It involves me." Leonora rose from her chair. "Rowan, control yourself," she said, as if I were the one misbehaving. "You're embarrassing everyone." "No," I replied. "You're confusing silence with consent." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Sit down. You're making this worse." I didn't move. "You already did that." My daughter tugged gently at my sleeve. Her voice shook. "Mom, please, we can fix this later." I turned to her and softened my tone. "Look at me," I said. She hesitated, then met my eyes. "This is not love," I said quietly, "and you don't have to carry it." Tears slid down her face, but she didn't look away this time. Leonora crossed her arms. "Marriage is not about comfort," she said. "It's about order, and this," I said, gesturing to my daughter's face, "is not order. It's harm." He scoffed. "You're overreacting." "I'm reacting exactly enough," I said. The room felt smaller, tighter, like it was holding its breath. I felt something in me settle, not into anger, but resolve. I had spent decades smoothing edges, making space, staying agreeable. I wasn't going to do that anymore. I reached into my bag and wrapped my hand around my phone, not yet lifting it, but knowing that once I did, there would be no going back. I took my phone out of my bag and unlocked it with hands that were finally steady. "What are you doing?" he asked. The smile gone now. "I'm calling for help," I said. Leonora stepped forward. "Put that away," she said sharply. "You're going to ruin everything." I dialed anyway. "Emergency services," the woman on the line said. "My name is Rowan Whitaker." I replied. "My daughter has just been assaulted by her husband at her wedding. There are witnesses." He lunged for the phone. "Hang up," he hissed. My sister moved between us without thinking. "Don't touch her," she said, her voice loud for the first time all day. My daughter's breath hitched. "Mom," she whispered. I looked at her. "I need you to tell the truth." I said, "Not for me, for you." She glanced at the faces around us, at the floor, at his mother. Leonora shook her head once, slow and warning. It was my fault. My daughter started, out of habit, more than belief. I tightened my grip on her hand. "No," I said. "Say what happened." She swallowed hard. "He pushed me," she said. Her voice broke, then steadied. "And he hit me." The operator said, "Officers are on their way." "Please stay where you are." His confidence drained all at once. "You're exaggerating," he said, backing away. "This is being blown out of proportion." "No," my daughter said, louder now. "It isn't." The doors opened minutes later. 2 officers entered, calm and direct. One spoke to me. One knelt in front of my daughter. "Can you tell me what happened?" the officer asked her. She did, without apologizing, without looking at him. Leonora's voice rose. "This is ridiculous. You're humiliating my family." The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, please step back." That was the moment the room shifted, not with shouting or chaos, but with clarity. He was escorted away. Conversations started and stopped. People watched, no longer pretending this wasn't real. I stayed with my daughter, her hand still in mine, as the life she had been protecting finally loosened its grip. The room emptied quickly after that, not in chaos, just in quiet retreat. People avoided our eyes as they passed, offering apologies that sounded like excuses. We didn't know what to do. We were shocked. "I hope she's all right." No one asked her directly. An officer explained the next steps in a calm voice. Statements would be taken. An order of protection would be requested. The marriage could be annulled based on what happened that day. There was no drama in his tone, just procedure. That steadiness mattered more than sympathy. Leonora tried once more. "This can still be handled privately," she said, her confidence thinning. "It already is," the officer replied. "Privately and legally." My daughter sat beside me, wrapped in a borrowed coat. Her face clean but tired. "I don't feel married," she said quietly. "You don't have to," I told her. She nodded. "I don't want to fix this." "Then you won't," I said. Later that night, she slept in her old room. I sat in the hallway for a while, listening to her breathe, steady and deep. For the first time all day, I let myself feel how close I had come to losing her to silence. There was no celebration in what followed. Just paperwork, appointments, conversations that had to be repeated, healing that didn't move in straight lines. The annulment came through months later, clean and final, as if the marriage had never existed. I learned something I wish I'd understood sooner. Peace that depends on someone else's pain is not peace. Silence that protects harm is not dignity. Love does not ask you to disappear to make it work. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment about where you're watching from. Stories like this reach further when people speak up. I watched my daughter sleep, safe in a house that no longer asked her to be smaller. The wedding was over. The life ahead of her was still intact. And for the first time, that was enough.